Hey guys, so in this video we're going to be talking about another type of loop, and this is called a for loop, so F-O-R. And before we look at exactly what a for loop does, let's look at an example of looping a specified number of time. So let's say we wanted to take in an integer n, so n is equal to int input. So let's say, please enter a number n, or please enter a number. And basically what we want to do is we want to print all the numbers from 1 all the way to, 0 all the way to, for example, n minus 1. Because one interesting thing about computers is that they don't start counting from 1. They actually start counting from 0. And so we can obviously do that. And the way we could do that is we can have some number. Like x, some integer x, and we can start it off at 0. So let's say, for example, we wanted to go all the way to 10. So what we could do is we can say while x is less than or equal to 10, what we can do is we can print out x. And for every time we print out x, what we want to do is update the value of x. We want to print out every value from 0 all the way to 10, right? So what we need to do is we need to increase x by 1. So how will this work? Well, basically, we're going to start off at 0. This right here, x is less than or equal to 10, will be true. So it's going to print out 0, and then it's going to increase x by 1. And then it's going to evaluate again. So now x is equal to 1. This is true. Print out 1. Now x is equal to 2. 2 is less than or equal to 10. Print out 2. X is now equal to 3. It's going to go to 4. Print out 4, and it changes to 5. From 5, it checks whether or not it's true. It's true. Print out 5, go to 6. Check whether or not 6 is less than or equal to 10. Print out 6, change it to 7. 7 is less than or equal to 10. Print out 7, go to 8. 8 is less than or equal to 10. Print out 8, and then go to 9. 9 is less than or equal to 10. Print out 9, and then go to 10. And then finally, 10 is less than or equal, so notice the equals here, to 10. So it's going to print out 10, increase it by 1, and then finally we have a value of 11. So is 11 less than or equal to 10? Well, no, it's false. So what it's going to do is it's going to stop this entire loop here, and then it's going to run whatever is over here. So let's actually save this, and I'm going to save it in my files here, and we're going to say this is called for loop. Now, this is not a for loop itself, but this is a while loop. Now, if we run this program, though, enter a number. So let's say, for example, or actually, in my example, I only went up to 10. So what if I wanted to go up to any number n that I took in as input? So what I'm going to do is run the module again, and I'm going to take in 10 as my input. So you can see here, it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Now, let's say I wanted to go backwards from 10 all the way to 0. Well, we can do that as well. All we have to do is set x equals to the initial value, and then we're going to have to say while x is greater than or equal to 0, right? Because we're going to go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And then when it becomes -1, all we have to do is stop the program there. And instead of adding 1, we subtract 1 here. So let's save it, run the module, and let's input 10 again. So you can see here it goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 0. Cool. Let's try something else as well. Let's say I wanted to just print out every other number. So I wanted to print 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and then 0. Well, how would I do that? The way I would simply do that is instead of subtracting 1, I would just subtract 2 here. Let's save it. enter 10 again, and we can see we go 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1, or 0. And we can do this forward as well. So we can start at 0, and we can go x is less than or equal to n, print out x, and add 2 instead of subtract 2. Let's input 10 once more, and we can see we go 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so this is pretty simple, and this is pretty understandable with a while loop. But let's say we wanted to write this another way. And another way of writing this is actually using something called a for loop. Now, what a for loop does is it starts at some value and it ends at another value. And you can kind of just think about it as a more refined and defined way of writing a while loop. So let's actually try each of these programs out. So the first program that we had was a program that ran from 0 to 10. And the way we write that using a for loop is we write the word for, right? For, like that. And then we want the value. So for example, remember I had the value x. And actually, what if I just kept this program here and just commented out for you guys? So let's comment these out. And so with the for loop, all we have to do is write the word for. Then we need our variable. So in this case, our variable was x. So let's actually use x again. And what if I wanted to go to a specific number? Well, the way I could do that is I can say in range. So I'm going to say for x in the range of, for example, n plus 1. Or let's just say n for now. Now, what if I wanted to print these values out? Well, all I have to do is print x, like that. So if we run this, I just want a for loop that runs from 0 to n. Now, with this right here, it's actually, if you only put one number in here, that's going to be your ending value, and it's going to assume that it starts at 0. So if we run this, actually, let's see what happens. If I put in 10, I'm expecting all the numbers from 0 to 10. But you can see here that it actually doesn't go up to 10. And the reason for that being is because this last value isn't included. You can kind of think about it as the while loop, but instead of x is less than or equal to n, it's just less than n. So you can kind of think about it as when x is equal to 10, right? Is x or is 10 less than 10? Well, no, 10 is not less than 10. 10 is equal to 10. So it's false. So instead, what we need to do here is we need to add 1. So we do for x in range to n plus 1 instead. So let's save this and run it. And we can see here that it's going to print all the numbers from 0 to 10. The next example that we had was going in reverse. Now, going in reverse is a pretty interesting thing to do in this Python here. Now, before we go from 0 to 10, let's actually create a for loop that allows us to go from -10 or -n all the way to n plus 1. So I want to go from -10 to 10. So obviously I'm going to need n plus 1 here, but if we want to specify where we're starting, we put it before this n plus 1 here. So for example, I wanted to start at -n. We would put -n, so this is my starting point, so I'll write that out. This is my start, and this is my end. So you can see here for x in range from the start all the way to the end. So the start I wanted to be -10, so -n in this case. And I wanted it to end at a specific location. Now, once again, it's going to be x is less than n, so we need to go to n plus 1. So if we run this module now, and we write 10, you can see that it goes from -10 all the way to 10. All these values. Okay, cool. So once again, we wanted to print out the numbers from 10 or from n, any value n, all the way to 0. So how would we do that? Well, all we would have to do is start at n, So we're going to start at n here, and we're going to end at 0. Now, what happens if I end at 0? If I only put a 0 here? Does this make sense? Well, if we think about it in the context of the while loop, we can see that if it starts at n, is n less than n? Well, no, n is not less than n, and so it will stop right there. So let's actually see what happens if I run this. I put in a 10. You can see that nothing happens there. And you can kind of think about it in this way. So actually, sorry, my ending value is 0. So it's going to say, is n less than 0? Well, in this case, n is not less than 0. And so we actually need to specify something that it will allow it to go backwards in this case. So how do we go backwards? Well, in this case, we would have minus equal 1, right? We would subtract x by 1, and then it would work. The way we do that here is we just specify how much we want to subtract the starting value by, or each value of x by. We're going to subtract it by 1. And so if we run this now, we can see that if we put in 10, it goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But wait, where is the 0? So the thing with the 0 is, once again, that this value here is exclusive. It's excluded from the entire list. So if I wanted to include it, I would have to just say 0 minus 1, because we're going backwards. If we're going forwards, we would add 1. If we're going backwards, subtract 1. So run the module here, and we run 10. And you can see that we go from 10 all the way to 0. Okay, next let's try out the one where we are going from we're going from 10 to 0, but we're using every other number. Well, the way we would simply do that is we can actually write this a little cleaner. So let's say we're starting at n, we want to go to -1 plus 1, which is 0. And what we would do is we would, instead of subtracting 1 each time, we would subtract 2. So let's run this. If we put in 10, you can see we go 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and then 0. Okay, let's try going forward this time. Let's go from 0 to 10, but skip every other number. So we know, and I'm going to delete this, we know that we're going to have to start at 0. We're going to have to end at n plus 1 instead of n, because it'll not include it. And then finally, we need to add 2 every time. So we're going to add 2 like this. So if we run the module, we can see that we get a value of 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 10. Okay, so that's pretty much some of the use cases for a for loop. Now let's go into Turtle and see how we can actually make use of this. So I'm going to open Bob the Awesome Turtle here. And in the previous videos, we were looking at how we might be able to do this with a, control our logic of our statements using if statements. So I'm going to delete all of this. So once again, we need to import turtle. Bob is equal to turtle.turtle. And then we need to say turtle.done. Okay, so once we've created the turtle, we can write our code here. So let's say I wanted to draw a square on the screen. Well, a square is not too complicated if we think about it. So let's say I started at a certain location here. So this is my turtle. So my turtle named Bob. And basically what he's going to do is he's going to go forward by some amount. So let's say he went 40 units forward. Then all we have to do is we need to turn him from facing this way, to facing this way, to facing up. So the way we can do that is we can swerve him to the left by 90 degrees. Okay, so now that he's facing upwards, he's going to look something like this. And what we can get him to do is we can get him to go up by 40 as well. Then we can go to the face to the left now. We can go 40. Turn left 90 degrees once again. like so. And all we have to do is go down 40 once more. So let's try this out. So what we have here is Bob the turtle. And what we can do is say, Bob, can you please go forward by 40 units? Then, Bob, can you go turn left by 90 degrees? Can you do that one more time by 40 units up? Turn to the left 90 degrees. Go forward 40. Then finally, so right now here we're at the bottom right corner. Then we go upwards, so we're at the top right corner. After this, we're at the top left corner. We're going to go down and we're going to finish it off by 40 units. So let's run the module. And you can see that he's doing it pretty fast. So I'm actually going to increase the size, and let's close this one out. Let's increase the size to, for example, 100. So each one of these, we can increase them to 100 instead of 40. And if we run this, we can see that he's doing those actions. And if you want me to speed it out, we can say bob.speed. Can you change your speed a little lower to 1, for example? You can see that he's turning, going down, and finally going there. Now, for more complex shapes, we might be able to apply this kind of idea of using for loops a little better. So, we're doing the same action over and over again, right? We're performing this similar action over and over again. But what if I wanted to, do this a million times? Well, obviously I can copy paste this a million times, but is that really useful? Well, no. The way we can do this is simply by using a for loop. So instead of doing all of this a million times, let's comment this out. So use the hashtag here to comment it out. And all we have to do is we need to say for x in range of the amount you want to do it by, because this for loop not only does it store the value of 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to whatever value you have here, but it also allows you to loop through things some amount of times. So let's say I wanted to loop through it 4 times. Because the action that I perform here is being repeated 4 times. Then all I have to do is say bob.forward by 100, and then bob.left by 90 degrees. So if we run this, we can see that the exact same thing has happened, but with much less code. So you can see here, much less code was used. Okay. So what if we did this, for example, with 60 degrees? And let's see what would happen here. You can see that it's doing some kind of hexagonal shape here. But in this example, it's not complete. We want to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So if we put in 6 here instead, we run this. We can see here that it finishes the shape off. Now let's say I wanted to, for example, do a triangle. Well, I need to do 3 sides, and the amount that I need to turn is 120 degrees. Run it. And we can see here that we get a triangle. Okay. And just a cool thing with Turtle here is that we can actually write words on the screen. And it's not really applicable with for loops, but we can see here to write code or to write text to the screen, all we have to do is say bob.write, and then the text that I have on the screen. So we can say this is a triangle. So if we save this and run it, it's going to perform that action and then say this is a triangle. I know it's pretty small, but it says this is a triangle here. All right. So in this video, you learned about for loops, how to control them using the 3 different properties or the parameters that we had to put in. So the starting value, the ending value, and the amount you want to increment the loop by.